In 1979, Ozzy Osbourne was fired from his lead singer position with the legendary founders of heavy metal, the pioneers, Black Sabbath. At the time, going solo wasn't a thing. Ozzy assembled a band to record his comeback album with his new band, Blizzard of Oz. The record company took it upon itself to add Ozzy's name and, of course, making it bigger than the band's. From there on out, it was forever Ozzy Osbourne, with most of the record-buying public assuming Blizzard of Oz was the album title. What made this album a titan of its time? To answer that, all you had to do is put it on the turntable, and it's all there on the record. My name is V. What's happening? And my co-host, Mr. Robert Armstrong, my brother from another mother.
What's up, my brother?
What's happening, man?
Oh, not too muck and fudge. How are you?
Oh, pretty good. Welcome, everyone, to the first edition of On the Record. So this was Rob's suggestion. We're going through some things, and it's funny because originally I'm like, hey, I know you like Gary Moore. You know,
And who doesn't?
And I'm like, oh, well, let's do a Gary Moore album. Because I'm not as familiar with Gary Moore as you are, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But what's interesting, Ozzy's first choice for a guitar player was Thin Lizzy's Gary Moore.
How interesting is that?
Yeah, and so it ran hot and cold between him and Ozzy, and I guess he didn't take Ozzy seriously because of the issues he had with Sabbath.
Well, I thought it was more of a British-Irish type thing.
Yeah, a British-Irish type thing.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, I read that this is from Loudwire that said, but yeah, it was very interesting. I went and so Blizzard of Oz outsold Paranoid, having sold over 6 million copies worldwide. Paranoid sold more than 5 million worldwide. So it was really interesting. 1980, because in '79, Ozzy was booted from Sabbath, and here's just a few albums. I had to throw two in that were just regular rock and roll rather than hard rock and metal. Here's what came out in 1980. What a great year for music. AC/DC, Back in Black.
Great album.
Motorhead, Ace of Spades.
Nice.
Iron Maiden. Joan Jett and the Blackhearts, Bad Reputation. Van Halen's Women and Children First. Judas Priest, British Steel. Black Sabbath, Heaven and Hell. Billy Joel, Glass Houses. And Bob Seger and the Silver Bullet Band, Against the Wind.
That's a great album too.
So that's just a snapshot of what was going on. And there's a lot of like new age, like it's still rock and roll to me kind of sounding bands. But yeah, I just thought that was awesome. And someone had asked Ozzy, I was listening to an early interview about the Blizzard of Oz album, and the guy's like, "Will Black Magic Mystic follow you?" The Mystic, from Black Sabbath. He's like, "Well, after leaving Sabbath, I very well couldn't sing about my mother's cat, could I?" So maybe that's his mother's cat on the album cover that you were asking about. You're like, "Hey, why is there a cat?"
That would be an interesting tie-in.
Yeah, and I always thought,
mom.
Yeah, like I always thought this was Hunchback of Notre Dame.
That's not her skull, is it?
I thought now it could be a horns though, or a crucifix. You never know. Ozzy does like his crosses.
You understand that that's a normal cross with an inverted cross inside the cross.
Yeah. It's upside down, backwards, forwards, in there. Right. So this was produced by Ozzy Osbourne, Randy Rhoads, Bob Daisy, and Lee Kerslock. Running time 39 minutes and 31 seconds of awesomeness. Released in 1980. Side 1. Dude, what a great way to start an album.
Oh, absolutely.
And that riff, dude, just sucked you in. And,
absolutely.
that riff captured a whole generation of just past, because at the time, I'm 54. Van Halen was my brother's band, my brother's age people's band.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So when Ozzy came out, because I was never a fan of Black Sabbath,
Yeah.
to me, it's like, oh, let's take some fucking, let's take some lewds and
So it's kind of like the same intro as Running with the Devil.
little bit, little bit.
Yeah. Dun,
Mhm.
dun,
But
dun.
yeah, it's got a great bass line. Ozzy sounds much brighter. Everything around him sounds brighter.
Yeah.
Different chords. People with all 4 fingers to use rather than 3.5. But I mean, that's why Sabbath sounded the way they did, because of that accident that Tony had. But
Yeah.
then a great 1-2 punch comes with, so what do you think of that song? I don't know.
Oh, I loved it. I love that whole thing. I love the
Yeah.
entire album. You can't just listen to one song off that album. If you start the album, you're listening to the whole thing.
Yeah, and I was surprised that there was only 9 tracks on the album. It just
Right.
seemed longer when we were younger. And then the perfect 1-2
Oh,
punch.
because we listen to it constantly.
Oh yeah. The best 1-2 punch, Crazy Train right after I Don't Know.
Yep.
Which also has the, I think it's the best opening of a metal song from its time, or maybe ever. That opening is just, unbelievable. Do 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 do. I. Okay. Goodbye to Romance.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. I got a lot of Beatles influence out of that one.
I see that. I
Not,
never
and
noticed
I
it
didn't.
before, but
It's
yeah,
weird. I
I
didn't
see that.
see that when I was younger.
Yeah.
But now
Well,
I'm like,
I
oh, that's
really didn't like the Beatles back then either. To truth be told.
yeah. You weren't the you
No,
weren't.
I never liked the Beatles. It wasn't until honestly like 10, 15 years ago where I really started listening to the Beatles.
Yeah.
And it just and if we're going to talk about the Beatles for a minute, I didn't appreciate their creativity. And I always paid homage to George that actually did all the producing, and this is what you need to do. And then last year we watched that documentary,
Mm-hmm.
and we saw the writing style of John and Paul, and we're just like, wow, they actually knew what they were doing. They actually knew what they were doing.
Yeah.
So I had a little fond respect for them, but I hate to admit it to the Beatles fans that what you didn't like the Beatles.
Well, you did eventually come around.
I did, yeah.
Like I wasn't a Doors fan until I was like 19.
Oh yeah,
Then I went all in on the Doors.
yeah.
But
Was it because of the movie?
no, it's because I could sing them.
Oh, okay.
So I could do the
Roadhouse
Morrison
Blues, yeah.
Unknown Soldier. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Goodbye to Romance, Beatles influence. The songwriting is really clear. And there seems to be a tenderness and vulnerability to him in this song. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
And
One thing that I did
in
notice
this whole
about
album, but in
yeah,
this song in particular, and it turns out that this was basically like his love song to Sabbath,
right.
departing Sabbath.
I mean, he only did the one, I think, one ballad, if you want to call it a ballad in Black Sabbath, but this one was far beyond that. It was more of
It was totally
a
different.
great song.
Yeah. And then there's D.
Yeah. Minute and a half.
Minute and a half on a good day. Just kidding. Beautiful Piece by Randy Rhoads.
Homage to his mother.
Yeah,
May she rest in peace.
We never got to see Randy Rhoads at his most Randy Rhoadist.
No.
You know what I mean? Like we were like 3-5 years
Yep.
away from when, like imagine what he would have put out 10 years after that.
Oh boy.
He wouldn't have been with Ozzy still.
No. Even Ozzy said that at one time.
Yeah. just whatever. He'd be, he'd probably be playing classical or some,
Yeah. Yep.
or, you know. Then the song Suicide Solution, a misunderstood song. Ozzy didn't even write it.
And all the lawsuits.
Yeah, it was Lee Kerslake
Judas
who wrote it.
Priest.
And yeah, Ozzy got shit for it, but he got shit for just about everything at that point. And then they had that lawsuit, and basically the writer was writing it about how he felt about Ozzy drinking and partying himself, at the level that he was. It had nothing to do with that. Ozzy felt bad about the person who passed, but, the headphones were lying there, I guess, next to the person who passed away and his parents, the Ozzy album's on the turntable. Well,
Yeah.
you know.
That's a story for another time.
Right. But I don't, just like the whole Judas Priest thing. And,
Yep.
there were witch hunts about. Not that no one would know that in today's climate. Goofies. Okay. What's up? Mr. Crowley. Another great, like, you hear that first, so there's a little Deep Purple influence coming in there. Even though, like, when they asked Ozzy in that interview, it's like, oh, what do you think about the, Black Sabbath's new lineup? Hey, blah, blah. He's like, that sounds like Deep Purple. It's the voice of the band. He sounds like Deep Purple Rainbow. Doesn't sound like bloody Black Sabbath. But
I heard George Crowley. Aleister Crowley is George Bush's mom or dad.
hey,
No,
could be now. It's all how they identify.
Barbara Bush's dad.
Interesting. Do you know Curious George?
Not personally.
Well, not the guy from Nubtown. I'm talking the books with the monkey.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, that's George Bush.
That is funny.
It is.
Really?
The guy who wrote it, George Bush's mom was his secretary, and George was always in the office.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. And it was like the guy who wrote it was like some political or intelligence guy.
Oh yeah.
Some kind of whatever. But No Bone Movies. This is the only song I really did. It kind of felt like out of place.
Like a filler?
Yeah. Well, no. Like they needed one more song, and this came from a different batch of demos or something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But because the lyrics are different than what he'd normally do.
Right. Yep.
The lyrics were more because he wasn't advanced yet with his lyrics, like he'd get in the 90s and stuff. So I think No Bone Movies is more along the lines of like No More Tears stuff. Like he kind of knew where he wanted to go, but didn't know how to get there. Right, I got a long way to go and a short time to get there. All right. Who would do the Bandit and Ozzy in the same sentence? That's us here at CreatiVity Talkin on the record. Yeah, No Bone Movies. Solid tune though. Revelation. I think it's the most Sabbath-like.
I really like that song.
Yeah, it's a really good tune. And it's weird because I didn't remember like let's see, like the second half of the side 2 of the album. I didn't really, other than Mr. Crowley, I never paid attention because that was just one long song from Mr. Crowley all the way
right, yeah,
to the end. Because that you never just listen to one tune on this album,
right?
You listen to the whole damn thing.
Yep,
you know what I mean.
That's why it seemed longer than
Yeah. So Revelation, in quotes, Mother Earth. I think it's the most Sabbath-like song, but still not Sabbath.
Right. Yep.
I dug the harpsichord and the church bells. Great jam. So I think maybe they might have heard like a demo of an AC/DC song or something. I'm not That may be influence. Maybe they're at the same studio or something happened. And then Steal Away, and then more parentheses.
The night.
The night. Like, why don't they just take the parentheses out? You know what I mean?
Yep.
I don't know the rule on that. Because every time in English class, because I'm dyslexic now, they know. But like, I would get sent down to the naughty bench across in the principal's office. Yeah. Oh, he's having a problem with English. Well, take him out of the class, dummy. But yeah. Oh, I don't. Sharon. Yeah. Steal Away the Night. It's got a more moving riff than Revelation, but what do you think about this? This whole album is just amazing.
It really is. I mean, I wish there were more liner notes when I was listening to the album. I mean, I don't. When I was in the car, whatever, it would the cassette would just be turning over and over and over because I
Right,
just couldn't stop listening to it.
right.
But
Chikink, chikink.
yep. So, but yeah, I mean, to me, that's one of my top 5 all-time albums.
Yeah,
So,
nice.
and that was one of the first songs I tried to learn on acoustic was D,
Yeah,
and then I had a pretty shitty Fender Strat, and I tried to learn the live album after Randy had passed away. They had a songbook with
right,
all the tracks off, and so I was trying to learn that, and it just a lot of people were into Eddie. I was more into Randy at the time,
right. Right.
but Randy didn't like Eddie.
Well, I mean, I think that's just PR, blah blah blah. You know
Well,
what I
I
mean?
mean,
They both
the,
admired each other. They hung out. You know.
yeah, the interview that I had heard that Randy's students were coming to him and say, "Hey, can you teach me eruption and that stuff?" So he kind of like, that fucking guy.
Right, right, right. So supposedly Chris, I don't even know how to say his last name, Tizanagarides. I totally apologize, but he was originally hired to produce the album. He also produced Thin Lizzy, Judas Priest, that kind of thing. You know, Judas Priest basically named their band after Black Sabbath. They wanted to get something as close to Black Sabbath as they could, so that's why you have Judas Priest. But yeah. But the Osbourne were very unhappy with Chris's production. He was fired and replaced by Max Norman, who stepped into complete producing and engineering. Norman's production work on Blizzard of Oz is uncredited, though he did go on to produce all of Osbourne albums up until 1986's The Ultimate Sin. But yeah, so Crazy Train and Mr. Crowley were released as singles in 1980. Crazy Train made number 49 on the UK singles chart. And Billboard, it was under the Hot 100.
That's it.
Yeah.
It's still an anthem, still a rock anthem.
Oh, for sure. See, Ozzy is Ozzy had said that or it was thought that Ozzy wrote Suicide Solution about Bon Scott, his buddy who just passed from AC/DC. There was a lot going on in 1980.
It was.
You know, but music-wise, for sure. And then let's see. I think that's all we have on the notes. You got anything?
No, I think I said everything I wanted to say.
So Ozzy went on to, you know, of course, we lost, you know, Randy Rhoads in a plane accident due to just some craziness. But you know, these guys on stage, you know, amazing.
Definitely.
Randy, you know, no one played like Randy. No one ever will play like Randy.
No.
And yeah, it must have been weird to you know, Ozzy's always had great musicians around him. That's what made Ozzy. Ozzy didn't make Ozzy. Everyone else around him did.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, I mean, can you imagine? I mean, dude, what a mind fuck. You're come from one of the biggest bands, Black Sabbath, and then boom, 2 albums right out of the gate. You know, you're going up, and the fucking bus driver or the pilot gets pissed off at his girlfriend or some shit, and then next thing you know, Randy Rhoads is dead and they're crashed
Hmm.
in the fucking bus.
That's messed
Unbelievable.
up. Yep.
You know, to come back from that, I mean, you got to give the guy credit, but shit, no wonder he
Now,
was.
I don't know if you heard, but and I may be wrong, but I thought that Diary of a Madman was a little bit under a deadline. And according to Randy, he wanted to do so much more with the guitar work and stuff like that. But maybe they shut him down too. Like, dude, this is Ozzy's album, not your album, because there's so many more overdubs that Randy was looking to do, especially for the title track, Diary of a Madman, which is obviously guitar laden. So, but that's for another time.
Yeah, because I think what happened, if I remember correctly, the first album came out and it was as far as popularity.
Yeah.
But when the second album came out with the song Over the Mountain,
Yep.
I think that kind of, you know, so the record company really didn't see. So when that hit, both albums hit.
Yeah.
But they're already past, you know, they're like, you know.
Yeah, I mean, Crazy Train and Mr. Crowley were the singles off the Blizzard of Oz, but then you had like 4 singles from Diary of a Madman.
Right, and that just like got everything just, you know. And then
that's when it
what had
went
happened, he had bitten, and then things went apeshit. And then, of course, Randy dying put a huge focus.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? So there was a whole bunch of things just converging on Ozzy at one time.
Right, yeah.
You know, but, you know, as I said, you know, so yeah, go buy Ozzy Osbourne, Blizzard of Oz on vinyl.
I have mine. I still have my vinyl.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Nice.
I have Diary of a Madman too, but
Excellent. Excellent. All right. Well, we'll be back again covering some classic albums from our past, our musical past, and stuff that influenced our life or maybe didn't or influenced others we know. But yeah, with Tunage, which is on every Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we really couldn't do slower songs. So we actually get to talk about slower songs on this show as part of a bigger thing. And hopefully you like the album reviews. If you'd like us to review a great album, just comment below and we'll try to get to it. And if we do, you'll get a free t-shirt from yours truly, Creativity Talkin. So